2017, I'm living a dream, getting the cream, I'm living on theme, I'm doing my things, Marty Supreme, Marty Supreme, Marty Supreme.
Hey everyone, welcome to Ajay Discusses Movies, a show in which I discuss movies both old and new. Today we're discussing a movie that just dropped in theaters this past week, and that movie is titled Marty Supreme, directed by Josh Safdie. This man is responsible for creating films such as Uncut Gems, Good Time, Heaven Knows What, Daddy Longlegs, as well as a film on Lenny Cook. Nick Ferrara and I discussed Uncut Gems 2 or 3 episodes ago, so if you want to watch that discussion, feel free to click on the channel. The entire time Nick Ferrara was in sunglasses, and despite all that, we still had a good discussion. So, I'm discussing Marty Supreme for today's episode. The film stars Timothée Chalamet as Marty Mauser, an aspiring ping pong player set in the 1950s of New York City, as it details and documents the personal and professional relationships that he encounters while playing table tennis. It is a film that is based off the life of Marty Reisman. It is not a biopic. They take liberties to have fun with Marty Reisman's life. That is why it's known as Marty Mauser. That is why the character is Marty Mauser. But I did watch this film not once but twice, and I'm happy to say that this is one of the best films of 2025. I truly loved this film. Absolutely adored it. I think one of the main reasons why I really loved it is because Timothée Chalamet is amazing in this film. He is just absolutely stellar. He does play the unlikable protagonist in this film, similar to that of, say, Howard in Uncut Gems and Connie in Good Time, but he's able to do so in a way that's even more likable, which you would think doesn't really make that much sense in the movie or doesn't really work, but it works, especially in this scenario. He plays a man who's in his 20s who is borderline delusional about his talents, who's borderline delusional about the world that he lives in, who takes advantage of the people that he's close with, makes a lot of false promises and empty statements, but for some reason you support him and you want him to do well and you want him to succeed. And that is what Josh Safdie is able to do so well, not just in this film, but throughout his entire filmography. Even when you watch Uncut Gems, you see Howard, this unlikable asshole who is still able to really pursue his craft, his ambitions, and even though you know he's spiraling into insanity, you still want to support him. And in a very similar instance, you want to support Marty Mauser in this film. This film is in the traditional Josh Safdie aspect ratio 239:1, and when you see that aspect ratio on screen, it really makes you teleported into 1950s New York. So I mentioned Timothée Chalamet, but the performances in general in this film were just absolutely incredible. Gwyneth Paltrow plays this aging actor who is very much comfortable in her situation, in her life, in her domestic situation, that she's not really able to pursue her dream. And in a lot of ways, it felt very meta. It felt very much a one-to-one comparison to Gwyneth Paltrow's actual life. Odessa does really well. This is not her first film that she starred in. She also starred in Hellraiser. And she does amazing in this film. A lot of people are saying that she might get an Oscar or an Academy Award nomination for this film. I think the talent is stacked this year. I think the competition is quite fierce this year, so I highly doubt it, but I wouldn't be surprised if she did. She did amazing in this film. Tyler Creator as Tyler Okonma did impressive in this film as a friend of Marty Mauser. And the humor in this film was really added and contextualized through his performance. Kevin O'Leary did phenomenal in this film. I know people have a very much a hatred towards Kevin O'Leary as an individual, but we got to call a spade a spade. He did really well in this film, especially in those final 30 minutes where he gives his final pep talk to Marty Mauser. And the other performances that I thought were really good were Penn Jillette. I mean, he was just, I didn't know it was Penn Jillette when I first saw him. I was like, dude, this guy looks completely different. He looks like a Weinstein. Like, honestly, when I first saw him, I was like, what is up with Penn Jillette? But David Mamet also did really well, and Fred Hechinger and Luke Manley both did really, really well in this film.
Trae Young looks like my dad's dick! I never saw my dad's dick! He still looks like...
We mentioned the performances, but the humor also was really good in this film. There's this moment early in the film in which Marty Mauser, I'm not trying to spoil anything, but there's a Holocaust joke early on in this movie. And the first time that I watched this movie, I could not keep it together. I gave an audible, not just gasp, but an audible laugh in the entire theater. And I felt really bad because I thought I was disrupting other people's experience watching the movie. But it was amazing. The humor was just absolutely incredible. The fast, sharp-witted humor that Marty Mauser was able to deliver in this film was just incredible. So we mentioned the humor, we mentioned the performances, but also big ups to the cinematography. Darius Khondji lends this film. He is responsible for films such as Mickey 17, Eddington, as well as Seven, many iconic films as well. Not just those, but other iconic films of that nature as well. He does amazing. And Daniel Patton did an amazing job with the soundtrack. The score for this movie is insane. The music for this movie is absolutely insane. There's a track off of the soundtrack called Endo's Game, titled Endo's Game. Amazing. It's just so amazing how he's able to use the words, the actions, the screenplay of Josh Safdie, and is able to create a musical out of it. And the needle drops for this movie were absolutely incredible as well. Needle drops from Peter Gabriel, New Order, Tears for Fears, as well as Alphaville with Forever Young. Just incredible music through the entire film. The set design and sound design were also really good as well. As typical with any Safdie movie, the set design was very much New York City in the 1950s, and how that really feeds into the delusions of the masses and those who are aspiring creatives and artists. This film felt very meta. This film felt very much a parallel to Josh Safdie's actual life and what we see of Josh Safdie in his personal life as well as in his creative life as well. Now, there are some negatives that people do have for the film. For me, I sort of view this film as a flawless movie, but there are some negatives that people do have for this film, and I do want to address them. One of those negatives is that people sort of view this as just Uncut Gems 2.0, which I have to disagree on. I think for a lot of directors, for a lot of filmmakers, they do have their own sense of style and purpose. When you watch Tarantino, you come to expect that he will make pulp films. Obviously, he definitely goes outside the line and creates something that is different and abstract, but more or less it's pulp films. When you think of Scorsese, you think of gangster movies. But that's not a crutch, that's just their specialty. And a lot of times, the Safdie brothers, in particular Josh Safdie, makes heist films. Now, they're often elaborate. They could either be about gambling, such as through Howard's case in Uncut Gems. They could either be of, say, table tennis through Marty Mauser. But that's just their specialty. That's just their forte. And I'm sure Josh Safdie will do something different, something outside the lines eventually in his career. But at the same time, that's just what you're going to expect from Josh Safdie. Another negative that people do sort of have that I can understand why they would sort of view it as a negative is the final scene in the movie. I'm not spoiling it, but Marty Mauser does see the product of his decisions, of the circumstance that he's in. And people may say that that is a tonal shift in the movie. It is a character shift in the movie that we weren't set up to see. I sort of view that as nonsensical, to be quite honest with you. I sort of view that as far-fetched because in a lot of ways, when that moment does happen in your life, it does change you as an individual. And I don't know, I think that I obviously don't have, a kid. I don't have a kid. But if I'm in that situation, I'm sure I'm going to look at it and say to myself, oh, I'm going to change as a better human, as a better individual, and it will make me rethink the decisions that that got me to that point in my life. So I understand the criticism, but I do think that in those situations, moments of that nature do arise, and you do change as an individual. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse, but you do change as an individual when that situation does occur. But yeah, I just love this movie. I thought this was amazing. I thought this was everything you wanted out of a movie and more. I watched this film not once, but twice. And on the second time while watching it, one thing that I didn't notice while I watched it the second time was the editing. Josh Safdie and Ronald Bronstein did an amazing job editing as they accentuated certain jokes, as they accentuated certain emotional scenes in this movie, and the fast kinetic energy that's prevalent within this movie as well. I just thought it was amazingly edited. And even though it's a 2.5-hour movie, it doesn't feel like that. It feels a lot quicker than that. So please go watch this movie. We keep on saying we want to support original films in Hollywood, but a lot of the times that doesn't come into fruition, right? Where were those people when Roofman came out? Where were those people when Bugonia came out? All right, we want to support original films, original storytelling, original screenplays, and this movie exemplifies all of that to the T. So please go watch the movie. I implore you guys to go watch this movie. It is in my top 5 films of 2025. Here's the letterbox list of my top 10, top 15 movies of the year. This may change during State of the Film Address. We do not know. But other than that, that has been the episode for today. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you back soon. The bookshop has been updated, so please go around to see this week's pick. But other than that, that has been our episode. I'll definitely see you back sooner than later, maybe with a guest, maybe during State of the Film Address. I do not know, but that is it for me, and I'll see you guys soon. Enjoy your holidays. Happy, merry, belated Christmas and Hanukkah, especially for this film, because it's very Jewish themed. But yes, that is it for today, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.